Why is it important to deal with your past relative to how you're in the relationship field now? A lot of people don't want to deal with their past. They just want to go with, this is how it is right now, that in inverted commas shouldn't matter. And they just want to push it to the back. Well, I'd like to explain to you that 98% of what we do all day, every day, is being driven from our subconscious. We're not actively, consciously deciding things. It may feel like in retrospect that we do, but a lot of times, especially when we're triggered, it's all subconscious. And this goes way, way, way back to, it could even be in the womb. We pick up all kinds of messages. We pick up things that are helpful to us, and we pick up a lot of things that end up causing pain and wounding. I don't want to call it damage, because damage is not really a word that I'm comfortable with. It's more about wounding. And this often happens to children inadvertently. Most parents really want the best for their children. And life presents so many challenges for so many of us that parents are not always able to give their children the very best of themselves. That could be illness. It could be financial stress. It could be divorce. It could be drugs and alcohol. It could be ending up in jail. It could be so many different permutations. And if you imagine that as a little one, without talking about past lives, because I'm really just worried about the life you're in now as opposed to the ones from before, you are like a little sponge. As a child, you're a sponge. You're going through the world and you're picking up messages. And as a child, we are naturally extremely egocentric or narcissistic. That's how children are. That's how they're designed. It's a positive thing. It means, however, that you feel you create everything that happens to you and around you. Now, whether that's a really good thing or something that's really difficult. If parents divorce, a lot of times children will feel as though it's somehow their fault. And of course, today we know a lot more, so parents are doing a much better job at making sure children understand that they're loved and that they're safe, and that the parents not being together has nothing to do with the children. Still, that's very painful for children. They want their parents together. So there's a lot of things that can happen. And what happens is we start to build a catalogue. The mind starts to build a catalogue of past, future. And that is, when this happens, that's what's going to happen. And it uses the past as a reference point to tell us what's going to happen based on past experience. So the mind is very, very rarely in the right now moment, which is one of the reasons I teach and I practice meditation. It's one of the best, easiest ways to get yourself to be centered now. The mind works past and future. It doesn't work present time. It extrapolates what's going to happen based on all of the things that it's collated in its memory bank. So it says, this is happening now, that's happened before, this is what happened after that happened, that's a yes or that's a no, or I'm neutral. And that's how the mind really works. And so with relationship, a lot of times what happens, we inadvertently, subconsciously are programmed to want to go back and redo things so that we can get a different outcome. If we had an abandoning parent, for instance, or an abusive parent, or whatever it might be, all the different permutations, there's a little part of us inside that's not healed, and it will go into life as a teenager and as an adult, looking for circumstances and people where that need can now get met. And unfortunately, tends to pick people who cannot meet it. So they're the same as the original people, but somehow we're being driven towards something that's familiar that we hope will have a different outcome. I don't want to waffle and get too confusing, but it's very important that we understand how much of what we do, how much of what we think and feel and how we behave is based on our past. And it's not that we want to get onto a broken record of staying with a story and becoming so identified that we think we are the story, that we are the victim, or we are the perpetrator. It's more about going back with love, compassion, understanding, intelligence, wisdom, empathy, and looking at what the child went through. That would be us. What the child experienced, the abandonment, the shame, the anger, the disappointment, the heartbreak, all of those things that many and most of us experienced at some level as children, that we didn't have an opportunity to heal from. And so it remains a little part on our heart that we carry, and we're very easily triggered. When we get triggered, that's an opportunity for us to see a place inside of us where we're not yet healed. That doesn't mean the other person is not responsible for their behavior, what they said or didn't say or did or did not do. What it means, however, is that the fact that you're triggered by it is an unhealed or a shadow place. So part of the work that I do is the learning love modality, where we go back, we look at the essence, which is the pure, unadulterated, perfect, amazing energy that we're all born with. Then we look closely at the little blankets that have been put over our essence that we call the wounds. Because you imagine this orb of light. It's pure, pure, pure light, which is what an innocent child baby is. They're pure light. Then something happens. They get a heart hurt or a heart wound, and a blanket covers a little bit of the essence. They learn to retreat. They learn to get angry. They learn to do all kinds of things as a coping mechanism to deal with the pain. And then outside of the wounded layer is a shell. And that shell is all of the strategies that we've put in place to try and help us get through life with not feeling too much pain. So it could be that we become a bully. It could be that we become incredibly shy. We could become people pleasers. We may become codependent. There are so many permutations to what we decided to do based on your gender, based on your age, based on your family situation, your culture. All of these things impact how and why we make certain decisions as children. What we don't realize is that we made them, and then we keep remaking that same decision all through life. We have the same kinds of repertoire inside of relationship. When something happens, you withdraw and become passive aggressive. When something happens, you become volatile and angry, or you become blaming, or you go into victim. There's going to be lots of different ways that we all respond to something that feels threatening or something that feels painful. So what I would like to know from you is what I could do to help you dismantle some of these things. There's a ton of free content on my website, which is bellamarielane.com. You can follow me on Instagram at bellamarielane. And there's also Facebook, which is Bella Marie Lane Heart Wound Healer. I would love you to DM me. When you're on Instagram, you see any of my little posts, DM me, ask a question, ask me to talk about something that would relate to something you're going through, because your pain, your struggles, your suffering really means a lot to me. I feel that my dharma in life is to help other people get through their relationship challenges, through their heart wounds, to come out stronger, more compassionate, more authentic, more healed. Because as a child, I went through a tremendous amount. And this is not about me. I just wanted to share that with you guys, that's what took me on my journey, was sexual abuse, trauma, physical violence, all of those different things that led me to having a lot of relationship challenges in my teenage and early 20s and 30s. I just could not understand why all these things kept happening. So I now do have that figured out. It took a while, it took a journey, but that's why I have so much love and so much compassion and so much patience for you going on your journey. Because once you get enough in your repertoire of knowing what to do and how to handle things, you start to become stronger, you start to become more individuated, you start to have more skills, you start to read better what is good for you, what's not good for you, and how to handle that. All of these skills help us to create the life that we truly, truly desire and deserve. Can you imagine a life for yourself where you know what to do in all situations? Now, that doesn't mean that it's going to turn out perfectly. It does, however, mean that you're going to ultimately have agency over your choices, agency over your decisions, and agency over your life. So I want that for everybody. I want everyone to have the emotional freedom that you truly, truly deserve. So, namaste, love and light to everybody. Bye for now.